Welcome to the London Outlook for November 16, 2023. Today is a Thursday. I'll start off with the important news for today. As you can see, at 3:30 p.m. we have some employment news for the USD, but up until then there isn't anything significant that's impacting the London session. Moving on to the moving on to the charts. Starting with GBPUSD, as you can see, we've taken out ERL and now we pulling back into potentially these worms. I'm not satisfied with what it's tapped into yet. So for the London session specifically, the objective would be to wait for one of these worms to be tapped. I don't anticipate price to come all the way down to here for today. It's a bit too far. What that essentially means is, given that we're waiting for GBPUSD to reach a 4H backed level, we will consider secondary pairs. Remember, we're no longer in ERL continuation momentum phase because price has pulled back into below the 4H ERL continuation section. As you can see, this was the ERL and now we're back underneath this. So the best option for me at this point is to wait for the worm to be tapped or for this obvious pro-trend OB to be tapped. I'll then move on to the pairs that I am considering as secondary pairs for today. One is Euro USD and the other is USDCAD. If we start with Euro USD on the 4-hour, what you can see is that Euro USD is in ERL continuation momentum phase, and we can essentially consider longs on the 5-minute without waiting for its backing. From a daily perspective, you'll see that we had yesterday being our reset period for the 3-day bullish streak, which is good, which now essentially puts us in a neutral bias from a daily perspective, and the 4H then supports longs given that we are in a bullish trend. Our second option is then USD CAD, which from a 4H perspective is, I guess, somewhat confusing and not ideal for a secondary pair because there's reasons to trade both longs and shorts. What I can point out at this point in the game is we've had from a 4H swing perspective, we've had our change in character for our trend specifically. However, subsequent to that, we've tapped into this pro trend previously confirmed OP, and from there we've created this primary leg. Yesterday, we then tapped into this primary leg OP, and as a result, we broke this OP, which is also a primary leg OP that has been created from the extreme of this pro trend unconfirmed OP. So there's essentially reasons to trade both directions. As you can see, early this morning we've wicked this primary leg OB, which also serves as a change of character OB, which then validates the secondary OB to support longs going forward. This primary leg OB reaction has taken out the substructure, which has in the short term achieved its target, which means there's no reason to consider longs until we reach this 4H OB again. There remains reason to continue to short. However, we've got to consider the fact that this 4H OB has been wicked, which then means that we've got to identify our 4H last point of demand buy to sell wicks, which is this purple block over here. Essentially, if we look on the 5-minute, the Asia range is quite big, and by the time the Asia range is taken out, you will see that we will already have tapped this new secondary OP, right? Which then would negate shorts because trading short would be trading against a forward OP, which is not ideal and would then require us considering triangle related rules and IRL points. So coming into London session for USDCAD specifically, what we'd want to see is the Asia range being taken out. And if it is taking out the low of the Asia range, then our bias primarily for majority of the day would be to long. Um, and then also to short of in consideration of the IRL and the triangle that will be created in this area. I'm not a particularly big fan of USDCAD because the narrative is unclear. We can trade either direction, which then means additional complexity. This complexity I usually reserve for my primary pair GBPUSD because I have adequate testing on it, which then I guess brings me back to EURUSD, and this being the pair I probably want to focus on for the rest of the day. The narrative is far clearer with a singular bias to long and not short. I think that essentially would conclude my London outlook. Essentially, in summary, my conclusion is that Euro USD is the cleanest pair to trade based on a clear bias and narrative for the day. GBP, USD, and USD CAD will be monitored, but unless something drastically happens on the euro, I won't consider trading those pairs, and we'll wait for GBP to either reach a WIMP and then I'll reassess in New York whether I want to trade it, and the same goes for USD CAD. I'll monitor it but reassess trading it for the New York session. Also, for the New York session, we got news to consider, so we'll evaluate how we can fade those news results. But yeah, I think the other rule to consider in terms of my trading plan is if we do take a Euro USD trade now in London, it would lock me into only taking Euro USD trades in the New York session.